Okay, we are live and welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today's webinar is What's New at PowerDiary 2023, and we're going to talk today about what is new so far in PowerDiary. We've just got everyone joining us. I can see everyone streaming in now, which is great. So without any delay, we'll jump into some quick. If this is the first time to one of these webinars, my name is Damien Adler. I'm a co-founder at PowerDiary and I'm a registered psychologist in Australia and originally a co-founder of a group psychology practice that my wife and I grew, and PowerDiary was actually developed with psychologists in mind, and it was sort of working in the industry directly that we could see the need for software such as PowerDiary. So we developed PowerDiary to really originally sort of psychology practitioners in the very, very early days. But then we realized that as time went on, that the needs for psychologists applied to allied health and all over the world. And so PowerDiary started out very humans and now services practitioners from all sorts of different professions all over the world. Now, joining me today, my co-host, I'm extremely excited to have Claire with us. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Damien, and hi, everybody.
So, Claire, you have been with us for a long time, PowerDiary. In fact, you are our first customer support hire many, many years ago.
Yes, it's been 9 years.
9 years.
Just
Wow.
over, yeah.
And I think, and Claire, you're for everyone's benefit here to understand a little bit about your role, right? So, Claire, you started with us as customer support and did that for quite a number of years, and then went into data migration. And you were, in fact, running our data migration for a long time, getting everyone's sort of data when they're moving from other systems so that you sort of doing those two roles meant you got a really good insight into obviously PowerDiary, but also seeing the data come from all the other competing systems out there. You would see that data. So you did that for a long time. And then why don't you tell us a bit about the role that you're in now? So you are a product owner. You want to maybe just very briefly explain to people what that role entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a product owner, I basically work on creating the product vision. So in the product team, we're responsible for getting these new features and delights, new enhancements to the product out to all of our users. So we're always listening to user feedback and demands and using that to inform what we build for the product, which we'll look at in today's presentation. But yeah, we work very closely with all of the teams in PowerDiary, especially the customer support team, to listen to what our users are asking for, as well as our engineering teams we work with very closely to actually build these products. So it's a very involved role.
It is, and I think you sort of really sit as a hub in the middle, don't you, between all the different sorts of departments and get all that sort of information and look at building out the roadmap and right down to working out what goes in each feature and what goes in, what gets left out, and how it gets rolled out. So I'm very excited to have you. I think no one that knows PowerDiary better than you, and now you've been the product owner role now for some time now as well. So you're all over this, and perfect person to have to co-host today's webinar, which is going to be all about the features of what we've put out so far. And now you'll have to excuse my voice. We're talking a little bit just before we went on. I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm fine. But if I sound a little bit off, that's all that's going on. It's absolutely fine. Okay, let's dive in, and we're going to look at so far. So it's a bit of a catch up for people. We do some webinars and some other things and some podcasts and stuff to sort of show as we go. But this is a bit of a catch up to look at some of the key things. So let's jump into some of these highlights, and we're going to go to client diagnostic codes or diagnosis codes. Can you tell us what can you tell us about what this is and how it works?
Yeah, so our client diagnosis codes, we built this mainly to allow users to be able to record client diagnosis in the system, but especially for our users in the US, there's a strong need to be able to record the client's diagnosis and have that on their invoices or their super bills, which are like statements, and to use that for insurance claiming. So this is very important for that functionality. What we have with this is that there is a preloaded list of ICD-10 codes in the system. I think there's over 70,000, so you're able to go in and use those to record the diagnosis in your client's profiles. But you also have the flexibility here to set up your own client diagnosis codes and code types, such as DSM-5, for example, would be applicable for many of our users. And then you can use these codes, as we can see here on the screenshot to the left, you can add it into the client's profile. So you can record their diagnosis and the date they're diagnosed and store that in the profile. Mm-hmm. And we can see on the right here, we've got the diagnosis as shown on the super bill. Mm-hmm. So it shows at the top there in a table, and we can have multiple diagnoses attached to a single invoice or on a super bill.
Mm-hmm. Because sometimes the treatment, right, is related to particular treatment items might be related to particular diagnostic or diagnoses. So for insurance purposes, that all needs to be contained on that bill.
Absolutely.
And it was sort of a bit of a bit of a weak spot in the system prior as well, didn't it? Because we didn't really have a centralized place to keep for people to record diagnosis and maybe how that changes over time as well. So I think this sort of, it was good feedback that we're getting from people around that. And then, of course, the US need, made it clear that really we needed to build it and build it in a way that you can use it. You can bring that data in, say, for invoicing or whatnot. So, very good. Anything else you want to say about this feature before we move on?
I think that wraps it up. We can move on to the next one.
No worries at all. All right, let's look at it. We have a lot to get through, so we will. We won't linger on too long on any one, but some will go in a little bit deeper dive. So communications, we've made a few changes right here. What can you tell us about this? Okay,
so the first one here is one we've recently got out, which is uploading the signature for users. Mm-hmm. So you can see in the screenshot there to the right that when we're looking at a user's profile, there's now a section to upload a signature. So this can be one that you draw by hand and take a screenshot of or upload it, or you can put in a typed signature and upload it as well. It accepts any image file. And then this signature can then be used on any email or letter template that has a particular merge field called user's signature. So the way that this works is when you manually create an email or a letter, it's going to automatically merge in your signature if you have one uploaded. So this means it's particularly useful for multi-practitioner clinics that may have a shared email or letter template that needs a signature. So rather than having to have a separate sort of template for each practitioner, you can just have the one, and then when that practitioner uses, the email or letter and creates that communication, it'll merge their signature in automatically.
And to configure that, this is configured by the user themselves, right? So they go log in, and then on the top right-hand side of the screen, they can click a little button there to get into their user profile and upload it from there. So it's something that's done by the user, right, rather than the admin person.
Exactly right. So it's within their control, and they're the only one that can go in and access and upload and edit their signature. Yeah, that's good. And then that way too, it means that the person generating the letter, the user that's logged in, that's the signature that's going to be merged on there. So from a sort of safety security point of view, someone else can't merge that signature into a letter accidentally, or hopefully no one will do it on purpose, but it does provide that. Okay, that's good. Now the next one we've got here is a preview option for letter templates. So how does that work? So what we were doing here is aiming to more closely align the look of the letter template with what you see in when you're viewing a PDF. So I will, just to preface that, we did change the width of the letter template. So we narrowed it a bit more so that it does more closely align to the look when you do print it or generate it as a PDF. And to also help with that, we have this preview option. So we added the button to preview and save. So when you click that, it'll save your template with your latest progress, but it also brings up a preview that you can see what that letter template will look like when it is generated as a PDF document. So It just helps you to see like what the sizing will look like and just help with that editing process rather than having to sort of jump out and open up a client's profile. So it makes it all a bit more smoother.
Yeah, and that was the feedback we were getting, wasn't it? That people they'd edit it in one part of the system, the template, and then when they'd go to use it, maybe client profile, and they're generating a letter, and they're like, it doesn't quite look like what I wanted it to, and they're sort of doing it in two different spots. So
exactly, there's a bit of fiddling, so it takes that out, and it all happens in the one page now.
Yeah, perfect. And then we also have thinking about collecting the client's time zone on forms.
Yes.
So what does that do, and why do we need it?
Yeah, it's more than just collecting the time zone, but it's a very fundamental aspect of this. So what we're doing here is we've added a section on the client profile, which we can see in the screenshot to the left there, where we can record that client's time zone. But we can also pick that up on our online form. So you can add a field to collect the client's time zone, which they can enter on that form. Or if they're a new client registering through our client portal, it'll also automatically pick up their time zone from their device and save that to their client profile. The reason we're doing this is because for many of our practitioners, especially if you're taking on like telehealth clients, your client might not necessarily be in the same time zone as you. So when you're sending out reminders to your clients that have, an appointment time, that time might not mean the same thing to them as it does to you.
Yep.
So if the client is in a different time zone to the business, which you set up in your account settings, then it does actually merge in the client's actual appointment time in their time zone, as well as the standard time zone. So in this example, we have AEST, but this will be unique to the client's time zone. So it means that they're seeing a time that is valid for them and they can understand when it is and reduce no-shows or confusion about when the actual appointment time is.
So when a reminder goes out, if there's a time zone set for the client, then that's going to merge and show them the appointment in their local time. Is that
exactly, yes. So rather than using like the time in the business's time zone, it uses that client's time zone.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's it's sort of something we got more feedback on as telehealth uptake has been greater and greater over time, wasn't it? That in particular, anyway. That's because they'd get it in their time zone. That was the practice's time zone, and then there's a risk that they, turn up at the wrong time, or
exactly. It definitely made the need greater. So
And we also have, I think, with more people providing services across borders as well. Like we get more of that as well, where they could be completely different, time zone, a different country even. To where they're providing services, so it does much better now cater for all those different sort of scenarios that have emerged. Very good.
Exactly.
Anything else for communications? So we've got the signatures, we've got the preview, we've got the fact that time zone is now included and used for reminder times. Anything else you want to talk about there?
That's all for now.
Excellent. Okay, let's jump on to the next one. So we're looking at 48-hour restore for deleted clients. Okay, so let's walk us through this. What was the need, and what's the scenario that led to us needing to or deciding to put this in?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we did have some cases where some profiles of clients were deleted, and that does mean a permanent deletion of the data.
Now, when you say deleted by, not by Powder, but this is
not by us. No. No, we did not delete the client profiles.
Just make it clear for everyone out there that so that we didn't delete. But so a user, like it would happen, right? That users would accidentally delete a profile, and there was a mechanism, or there still is a mechanism to prevent just click, like they literally type in delete, right?
Yes, that's right. So they have to type in delete in all capitals. We have a lot of information there, but unfortunately it does happen. Like you might have two profiles by the same name. You meant to delete the new profile, but you accidentally deleted the one with years of history in it, which is a terrible situation. And we definitely don't want our users to go through that. So to help with this, we've added another layer here. So once you do click delete and you type in delete to do the confirmation, we actually have a 48-hour buffer here in place now. So it gives you 48 hours where if you do realize you've deleted the wrong client profile, or you do need any information for whatever reason, you can go in and restore them. So before that data is permanently deleted. So the way it's handled is when you do delete it, we actually flag them similar to how we treat an archived profile in the system. So you might know for an archived client profile, when you search for them in the main search, they won't show. But if you do go to the advanced search, you can filter to search for clients. In this case, they'll be called flagged for deletion. And you can still find the client profile that way. And coming into this admin page that we see on the screen here, you'll see an option to restore them.
Yeah, and that will bring back the client and their related content. Is that right? Like
yeah, it'll be instantaneous, and it just means that they won't be scheduled for deletion anymore. So you'll be able to interact with them as usual.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing for us to comment on here is why the 48-hour window. Like, why not leave it indefinite? So the reason behind that is because we legally, people need to be able to delete data from the system, right? And under different jurisdictions as well, there are there are requirements if someone requests their data to be removed from the system, that practitioners need to comply with that. And there's also under the Record Keeping Acts in the US, Australia, UK, Canada, that they all have guidelines around how long you should keep clinical records and at what point you can sort of delete them, because you don't want to, it's a bad data sort of management practice to keep your data you don't need or not required to keep indefinitely, right? So we do need to delete things permanently from the system when people say, I want this deleted. And that's where the 48-hour window comes in, because it is going to be deleted and permanently deleted and removed from the system, but it just provides enough of a buffer that if someone does do something accidentally, they have the capacity to go in and restore it. And like you say, it prevents, that can be quite difficult if someone has deleted stuff that's important, and this makes life easier.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, let's jump into telehealth, because I know there's been a whole bunch of stuff here, and this is Telehealth Plus that we are talking about here. Okay, where do we start with this, Claire? What would you like to, let's take it from the top. So
there's a lot to talk about with telehealth, but yeah, basically like the essential need that we had here was that a lot of people are asking for a way to facilitate telehealth calls with more than 2 participants. So that includes the practitioner and the person, the client that you're having the call with. So this can be like couples counseling. It may be if you need a family in on a call, or it could also be if you're just running group classes, for example. The need to have more than 2 people, can arise in a variety of situations. So to facilitate that, we had a look at how we could do so, and that brought us to our Telehealth Plus. What we're using here does allow us to have multiple participants in a call, but we've also been able to add a bunch of other really cool features to telehealth here. So what we can see in the screen here is when I open up my telehealth call, it does open up in a separate tab, which is also a really awesome aspect of our Telehealth Plus. You can have a much wider view here. So when it does open up in this separate tab, as the practitioner, I see this joining screen where I can put in my name. We can't see that just here, but I can put in my name. I can copy a link for the client if they do need it, but it will go out in a message, like it'll be merged prior to that. But I can also click on settings here, and this view that we see in the screenshot here is when I'm viewing these settings. So we do actually have the option to add a virtual background, or we can blur the background here. So as you can see, I've got a nice office background set there. We can also pick up the video input and the microphone input as well, and test out our speaker and our microphone. And yeah, so once we've set that and we hop into the call, we've obviously got a lot more features. But in terms of I think we talk about that in the next screenshot. Here we go. You're right on it. This is a view of what the participant would see. So when they join that link, that as I said, you can, if you have Telehealth Plus enabled for an appointment, then it does automatically merge this link in if you have that. I think it's client telehealth URL merge field. So if that's using your message, the client just clicks on the link and they'll be brought to this screen here. So the client here can put in their name, which is important. If you have multiple participants joining, you do need to know who's who. So they put in their name, and they also just see a confirmation of who the appointment's with and the date and time of the appointment. Just important if they may have multiple appointments, and when you just want to make sure they're joining the right call. And they also can click on settings to choose a virtual background or blur, and they can just make sure that their video and microphone are working as well.
And they can change cameras and whatnot too, can't they, from that?
Yes.
Makes it a lot easier to do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and then we go to within the call now.
Yes, yep. So this is a call with 2 participants, and in this particular call, I have speaker view happening. So we can see that you as a participant are sort of in view here.
Yep.
We've
this is you as the practitioner, like operating
yes.
here, aren't you? Yeah. So you're off
He
the
is the
side.
practitioner here.
Yeah.
Yes. So I want to focus as a practitioner. I want to see my client in detail, so I can, read their body language and get a good view of them. So, yeah, in that case, I've got the speaker view on you as a patient. And we can also see here, I've got the chat open to the right-hand side. So in this chat, I have, as the practitioner, I've sent you an attachment. In this case, it's an activity schedule. And I can send you a message in real life, so in live. So I can send you a message, and this is really important if, if your participant joins, for example, and they might be muted, or if they're not that good with technology, their camera might be off or something, you can send them a message and just let them know. And they can also chat back to you through here as well.
Yeah, perfect. And then if you're in a group, if you had a group, so I'll go to this next here. So we got Harry in, whom people may have. Harry's also been with our sport team for a long time. So Harry's our other patient that we brought into this call.
Yeah, so it just shows us, yeah, we can have many more participants, but it just shows us that it does accommodate that view. Something else that's important to note here, as the practitioner, we can see a time in the top right-hand corner. So once you start the call, it actually starts counting the time for you, which is really important to be able to keep an eye on that and make sure that your telehealth call stays within the limits of the appointment. And we also see the option down the bottom to share your screen as well. So you can, share and present to your clients or your participants.
Yeah, perfect. And then you can also, we don't, I think, have a screenshot, but you could change the view. If you're doing a group appointment, you could change it to be speaker view and so forth, so that whoever's speaking is the one that is shown right on the.
That's right.
On the screen. Yeah, it's great. So this is called Telehealth Plus. So in the system and using it, we still have the original Telehealth that everyone, we've had that now for quite a number of years and works really well. And that is still there, and that is still free to use. With Telehealth Plus, adding this sort of functionality and having group appointments, actually, there's a cost overhead for us to provide that. So there is a cost associated with using Telehealth Plus, but you can chop and change and use it just for the group appointments. You can use it for all. You can use it for none. It's completely optional, but something that we've had out now in beta for a little while, and now is out, and it's been getting some great. The usage numbers are extremely high, and lots of great feedback. So really good to have that out there, and particularly for practices that are doing lots and lots of different telehealth stuff or group work. Very good. Anything else you wanted to mention about Telehealth Plus before we move on?
Just briefly, I will mention that you do get a unique link per appointment with Telehealth Plus. Mm-hmm. So it does mean that if you do want, if you do have an appointment with a client and you want to add some other participants for one call, when you do send that link to them, it will change by the next appointment. So it just means that it is secure. So from appointment to appointment, that link with your client does remain secure. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So that, if someone had a link, if you had a regular appointment with one-on-one and then you did a Telehealth Plus call because you were going to have maybe parents or someone else involved, that's going to create a unique link that only works for that group Telehealth Plus session. After that, that link is gone, and they can't access the session again with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's a good point. Thanks for remembering that. Very good. Okay, let's jump on to it. This default service for group appointments, and so what was the need for this change here?
The need here was to actually be able to pay for group appointments, really. As we see on the screen here, we've got a screenshot of our client portal. So we had a lot of interest, understandably so, for clients to be able to pay for their group appointments when they're booking online through the portal. But to be able to pay for something, we need to know what the price is. And to do that, we needed to know the service. So the first step to do that was to be able to facilitate selecting a default service for our group appointments. So this actually happens within as a user. So when you create an appointment or if you're editing it, you can select a default service. And the way that this works is once that default service has been selected and saved for that group, any participant you add as the user or any participant that books in through the client portal will then have an invoice created based on that default service. And it then also picks up the associated price. So using that, clients can then now pay for their group appointments based on that amount set for the default service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just to note on this one, we have added the option to enable this. So you do need to be connected to Stripe. So we're using our Stripe integration to pay for these appointments through the client portal. And there is an option where you can make it either optional or required to make a payment for the group appointments, or you can disable it if it's not applicable for your type of practice.
Yeah, okay. So if people, if perhaps maybe people might have pre-sold a bunch of sessions or something for group appointments and they can just jump on and book without having to pay each time, they can do that just fine. But they don't have to enforce this payment option.
Exactly right. Yeah.
But the feedback was, I think, people, they were like, we want to collect, payment for it. But I guess particularly for a group too, because you have a whole group of people turn up for a class or something. It's probably the scenario where you don't want to be processing,
exactly.
10 different transactions at the end of that. So,
yeah,
I guess essentially plugging a bit of a hole there, like in functionality that we were hearing from users that that they really wanted this. So that's
absolutely
great.
Yeah,
wonderful. Anything else on that before we jump to the next?
Just briefly, that it can be used as well to take deposits. So if you don't want to take the full fee of the service, you can take a deposit amount as well. So awesome.
I guess as a reminder, people can do that for any client portal booking as well. You have the option, right, of defining, to take a deposit on the thing. So that functionality extends into group appointments as well.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, let's look at waitlist updates. We've had a whole lot of action here, right? So we'd had the previous waitlist for quite a while, and I think what part of your regular role, regular job is sort of collating feedback, right? And we had a lot of requests, didn't we?
We did. We had a lot, and there was a real fundamental need then to, people had growing wait lists and they just really needed a way to more efficiently manage their wait list. So based on all of that feedback, we went through it and we gave our wait list a bit of an update, a bit of a facelift as well. So we updated the UI while we were there, but it has got a lot of new functionality. So I think we've just got the one screenshot, but there is more to see. So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to open it up and have a look. But I'm going to run through a few of the new things we added. So we can see to the very far right there, the column is we've added the tags. So these waitlist tags are customizable tags that you can apply to a client on the waitlist. It can be none, one, or many. And these are particularly important for flagging, like if it's a new client. My example there is they have flexible time, so they might be able to do, if you call them, they might be able to do any time. But you can use this in any way that works for your practice. So that's the beauty of it. Mm-hmm. And it really helps with being able to manage the people on here.
And if you, let's say a practice had like a contractual arrangement for an EAP, for instance, they were providing services to a company for their employees, and maybe they have some requirement to see them within 2 weeks or something, or a week of their first. So you could go in here, practice, and set up a tag saying EAP. Or a priority, and you could tag the person with that, right? And then you could see that content and filter, to see the thing that's relevant based on that tag. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So by clicking on more filters, as we see in the screenshot there in the top right, there is a filter there to filter by tags. So you can, in that particular case, if there is like a priority client, you can filter by priority and prioritize them accordingly. So
perfect.
Definitely helps with those cases. But the flexibility is the power here. Something else that we can see is we have added a few new columns, which we actually can't see in this screenshot, but we've got the location, the date of birth of the client, we've expanded out the notes. Previously, this showed as a little icon next to the available days and times where you could hover and view. It still does, but we have added it as a separate column. So if those notes contain some really important information, you know, in your use case, maybe expanding that they are an EAP client and this is when we need to see them by, you can see that immediately and have that in the waitlist grid there. And we've also added the waiting send state. So these are all new columns, and we see an option in the bottom left there to select columns. So you can control which one's actually showing the grid according to what's important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next to that.
Yeah, sorry, go for it. Yeah, no, you go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got the export to CSV. So this is also really important for managing the list. Some people have hundreds of people on their wait list, so they wanted to be able to export that and to be able to manage it, or, you know, work through it and call people, whatever it may be. Yeah, you do have the option to export it as well. And then we see in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a count as well of the total clients. So if you land on the wait list, there's no filters applied. You'll see everybody that's waiting. But if you do use any of our filters, and we have, searching by client name, which we've also added, filtering by practitioner, location, you can filter by day or time, and also by tags. And when you do filter, it'll update that count as well. So you can get a sense of how many people are waiting for particular days or times or anything like that. So that's also very important to have.
Very good. And finally, here we've got this send SMS, which we had before as well, but now because you can filter better, we're finding that by using these other functions, people can filter their target groups that they might want to message out to. So if there's a appointment availability that comes up, people can filter to the clients they want to offer that to, and can select those and send an SMS out to those clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you can select all, or you can select some of the clients in the results there to send an SMS, as you said. And you can also now remove in bulk. Previously, we just had the option to remove one by one, but using that multi-select, you can remove many people as well at the same time. Which is very helpful. And then on the remove, when you do remove a client from the waitlist, we've added an option to save their waitlist notes to their client profile as admin notes. So this is really helpful as well. There may be some really important intake information if they're a new client on the waitlist. So rather than having to copy that out and paste it in, their client profile before removing them, you can now just tick this box when you're removing them from the waitlist, and it creates a note for you automatically in their client profile. So it's a really awesome enhancement there.
Definitely, and it means, like you say, that important information isn't lost. Because people often they're adding to the waitlist and they're on their phone, they're recording the notes about something, but it may be something that like you say needs to be recorded, and if that disappears, that's not so good. So it's had a major overhaul, really. This
absolutely, and there's more to it. But as I said, I encourage you to hop in there and have a look. It's really powerful now, and we've also added it to the header so you can more easily access it if you're in the calendar. But it's definitely more powerful, and helps to manage your wait list.
We've found, since we've put this out now, the requests around waitlists have dropped dramatically. So it used to be fairly
really good sign. So
exactly.
We're still listening to feedback, but we've done a good job here, I think, in terms of tackling a lot of demands that we had. Yeah,
absolutely. Very good. Okay, let's jump into linked fields for forms.
Yes. So for the first one, we've added a linked profile field to collect the client's insurance details. So this is really important if you're intaking a new client, or if you're just getting updated details from clients. Their insurance details are, of course, very important to be able to facilitate claiming.
Just sort of to give a broader picture first. So a form might be, a form is something that people would create, or they can use one of our templates. They might send it out to the patient ahead of an appointment, or it might be throughout if they're collecting feedback or collecting outcome measures. But in this case, we're looking at collecting that information often on intake. So there's a whole bunch of fields, and then a linked profile field means that the data they enter on that form will then get populated into the field in the profile. Do I have that down right? Yes. Okay. Very good. So when we're adding things like insurance, so we are getting the insurance information that the patient enters, and where does that land in the system? Where does that come through?
Yeah, so in the client's profile, there is a tab under the billing section for insurance where you'll see this populated. And very good context there, Damien, very important to note. But yes, it does allow you to capture that information from the client without you having to actually get it from them, either over the phone or in person or something, and type it in yourself. So it's automating that population process. So when you're setting...
I was going to say, before that, wasn't it? It would come in, people would have a field that would say insurance, but it would just be like a text field in the form, right? So when they'd have to go in and copy and paste it out of that form and then enter it into which is clunky.
And we're able to do it for you, so now we are. But when you're setting up the form, and if you do choose this insurance linked profile field, you can choose to record the insurance for a particular insurer. So in Australia, for example, we might have Medicare and DVA. In the US, for example, you might have Medicaid or private health insurers as well. So you might want to target a particular one, or you might just leave it open and allow the client to select their own insurer that they want to add their number for. And then as we see on the screenshot to the left there, the client just sees the name of the insurance and then the option to put in their insurance number.
Perfect. That's and then the other one here is around uploading client files. So how does this work? Yeah,
this one's also a really important one to have. So again, when you're setting up your form templates, you'll see now a section to capture the client file upload. So once you have added that to your form and you send it off to your clients, they'll see what we see here to the right. They'll see a section to upload one or many files. And you can add a heading to that to sort of, if there's a particular form, a particular document that you want them to upload, such as a referral document or anything else, you can direct them of what you want them to upload here. So once they have uploaded it, they can't click on it to view it, just for security reasons. They can just see the name here and they can delete it. But this will then be uploaded with the form in that client's profile. So it really helps to streamline that process of getting information to you.
Yeah, and they might have had test results, or like you said, referrals, or they might have X-rays or various things, right, that they want to. It's helpful to collect prior to that first appointment.
Yeah, absolutely, and doing so in a secure channel as well, so it goes directly through to Powder without having to use an unsecure channel. So want to be able to collect that straight into Powder.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, let's move on to notes. So we've got a bunch of things here, right?
Yes,
so what have we done? What have we done to notes? Let's
all right.
run through these.
So the tough one we have here is to be able to add your signature as the practitioner. So again, when you're setting up your note template, you now have the option to add a field for the signature. And then this means that you can type in your e-signature to the note. Sorry, I just realized I've skipped straight to the second bullet point there, but we'll get back to the top one. But yeah, this adding the signature is very important in particular regions. This is mandatory for you to sign off your notes. And also if you have a supervisee and you need to, review their note and sign it off, it's also really important to have that. So it covers those needs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the top one that I skipped over. So with this one, we've added a user permission to allow users to unlock their own notes. So previously, only the master user, which is typically the person that created the Powder account, or it might be like the practice manager, they would be the only people that could unlock any notes in the system just for security. So a locked note is one that so we have a draft status where you can edit it. And then once you save it as completed, that is counted as locked. So you can't open it as a user and unlock it and keep editing it. So we did have a need to allow people to give this permission to some of their users, where if it is enabled, the user can unlock notes that they have written, and it will only be notes that they wrote while logged in as their username. So it does allow them, to go in and unlock the note for further editing.
Yeah. So if they accidentally clicked, complete and locked it, they have option. And when it is unlocked incidentally, there's a log of that too, right? Like
there's that's right. Yeah, there's a log on the actual note that you can see as well. So with the timestamp.
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, lastly, we have the expanding and collapsing of notes and forms. This one was a really powerful little enhancement that previously when you came onto the note or forms page of the client profile, you saw the heading that we see here, but also the whole note content or form content. These can get really long, especially if it's an intake form. Some of those are massive and, rightly so. There's a lot of information to collect, but it would mean that you'd need to scroll through, quite a long way to go through and find like maybe last week's note or, a very early note. So this functionality, it allows you to just click one button to be able to minimize them all. And you just see what we see here, which is just the heading of the note and the date of the note as well. So it really helps to be able to find, a previous note a lot easier or form.
Yeah, and I think particularly for patients have a lot of like a long history and lots of appointments, that starts to become the benefit of this feature becomes more and more evident.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't have to, very good. So there's a quality of life improvement there. For everyone. Now, the next thing, this will apply just to our Australian customers. So if we're talking about for our US customers, when we're talking about Medicare, and we're not talking about the US Medicare in this context, but what have we made a change to here, Claire?
So for Australian users using Medicare or DVA, we have an integration with Medicare and DVA to allow you to lodge claims and then receive payments. So currently, previously, the process was when you submitted a bulk bill or DVA and you waited that 24 hours, you would go into the claim or on the Medicare dashboard, you would run the payment status report, which basically fetches the payment information from Medicare or DVA to find out if the claims have been paid. What would previously happen is when it did come back as paid, say if you had a whole week's worth of claims, if there were multiple claims there that did come back as paid, you would need to then go into each invoice and mark each one with a payment so that they were recognized as paid in the system. What this feature here does is it automates that process for you. So when you do go into the Medicare dashboard and you click fetch the payment status report, it does receive the payment confirmation for any of these claims. The system then goes in and it allocates that payment for you. So there could be multiple. If you do it weekly, daily, it goes in and it does that whole batch for you. So it takes a lot of time for you, which is really awesome.
There could be literally there could be hundreds, right? Like for practices that do a lot of either DVA or bulk billing, and they would have to go in one by one and yes, that's paid, and then manually update the invoice.
That's right. So we're really excited to get this one out just to save our users time, which we love doing. So this automates that whole process for you. And as we see in the screenshot to the left here, on the new Medicare settings page we added, you can enable it either just for bulk bills or DVA claims on their own. And you can also choose the payment status that is used for the payments that are allocated. And then once that's on, as we see in the screenshot to the right here, when we're looking at the Medicare dashboard, we can see if these settings are enabled so that we know that when we do fetch that report that it is going to allocate payments or not.
Yeah. And so if someone particularly likes manually going through it and doing it, and it's their favorite part of their week, manually, they can turn it off, right? And they can do it manually. So
absolutely,
we're not enforcing that everyone uses this, but yes, it certainly does save an awful lot of time. And I think another one that we've received a lot of positive feedback and just great, like you said, save people time and keeps everyone happy and doing things that they enjoy more. Okay, pronouns. Walk us through this one, because this has been something I know we've spent a lot of time, working with the community and identifying the right way to kind of implement this. So in a nutshell, what does this new update allow us to do?
Okay, so previously we just had a single gender gender field on the client profile. This didn't accommodate to being able to record the client's sex, their biological sex, and their gender identity, as well as their preferred or their pronoun set that they use. So what this feature allows you to do is to record these different pieces of information on the client profile. So you can record their sex, their gender identity, their pronouns, as well as some identity notes, which we can see in the example here. It may be if they have 2 sets of pronouns that they do use, or anything else that you'd like to see there, you can record. Yeah, so this information allows you to collect actual important information about your clients, or these new fields, I should say. And you can see that sort of when you're viewing the mega menu, as we see in this screenshot here, which is when you click on the client's name, it opens up this mega menu. So if you're looking at their appointment, for example, you can open this up and you here can see their pronouns and also their identity notes. So you have the information of how to correctly identify and address them, which is really important. And we've also added some new merge fields for the pronouns, so different sort of forms of pronouns. We have added merge fields for those into the communications. And yeah, the important thing about these to note is that they are customizable. So you can customize the list of gender identities, sex, and also the pronouns. So you can use this in a way that works for your client base. And yeah, we also have linked profile fields for these. So on your online forms, when you're sending these out to clients, you can choose to add these and collect this information from your clients, which will populate their client profile.
Yeah, perfect. And so really it's from start to finish, from collecting information on client forms, storing everything correctly in the client profile, showing that at the calendar screen, so with that sort of quick reference to make sure that we handle that right and we know the preferences, and then all the way through to communication templates, right? The way those merge fields work, that when you're generating correspondence with the updated merge fields, it will utilize the right pronoun, the right references for that particular client. So at each part of it, it's sort of looking at what is the information that it needs and merges that or makes it available to the user. So it's been something that's been on our agenda for a little while to get right and get in, and it was great to. That's one of the things out earlier this year. So well done. That's very, very good. Okay, now we will we'll look at a little bit. We won't give away everything, but just a couple of. We know people always like a little bit of a sneak peek or a hint as to what's coming next. So we actually have a public roadmap now for which sort of covers some of our key things. But what can you tell us, Claire, that might be on its way?
Okay. So a big one that is on its way that people will already see under their setup menu is the resources section. So we have already released the increment where people, everybody can go in and set up their resources. What's coming soon is the ability to use those. So
what's a resource? I don't want to give. Let's take a step back. So what if we're thinking about a resource? What would be a scenario where people might want to manage resources?
Yeah, great question. The main use case here is to be able to use rooms. So to be able to assign, to first of all set up the different rooms that you have, if it's in one location or many. It's really important that you're managing those resources appropriately to prevent double bookings. You can't have 2 people conducting a session in the same room at the same time. So rooms is the biggest one here, but it could also be equipment. So if you have certain pieces of equipment that you need to book out for an appointment, you can use these. Same as rooms, but they're resources as well, and they can be booked for the appointment as well.
Very good. And there's some parts of that live now, right? So this is literally we've been rolling out the last couple of weeks the first stages of this, but very soon the last piece will come out where you've been able to configure it for about a week or 2, but you'll actually start to be able to book it in and use them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you'll be able to book and manage the resources for your appointments. So that'll be coming in the next few weeks, which we're really excited about. So definitely keep your eyes peeled and look out for if you're not already on our users group on Facebook or on our other social media sites, definitely join them and keep an eye out for our emails and on our roadmap, because we'll have an update on that soon.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's good. And I've got this here, like just to kind of point out. So what we've covered off today it's kind of like a big, excuse me, my voice is starting to fail. But what we've covered today, there's sort of like the headline, some of the bigger features, right? But we've done a whole bunch of smaller things that is just too many to go through in a webinar that we want to keep under an hour. But
yeah, there's so much that we've done this year, and I'd say also look at our release notes. We're constantly, there's many things that we're doing each month. They might be really small, but they do make a difference. So yeah, we're always working on doing the little things. There's lots there.
Yeah, and we do have different sort of behind the scenes we look at, and we classify things in, that we'll have some larger projects that are like headline projects that we're working on, but then we'll also have a constant stream of some of the smaller things that we're working on as well. So so that we don't have, sometimes there's small tweaks that we can make that makes an improvement to the usability and is responding to feedback, and we have it set up in a way that doesn't have to wait for one of the big projects to be done. We have multiple teams working at all times, and teams working on these different sorts of things. So you'll see, every, the changes constantly coming out that are improving things, and of course the bigger ones that we've sort of touched on today. And that's just so far. We have kind of some cool stuff coming out. Very good. Yeah, where should people go for help? What's the best way for people to get hold of us?
Yeah, talking about just another update in the system that we've had recently is on our help menu. If you're logged into Powder, you can click on help here, and this does give you the option to either open up our live chat. So if you click on get help, that'll open up a little modal where you can have a live chat with our team, or view some knowledge base articles here. You can also open up our knowledge base, which goes through articles about how the system works, or view our system status there. But as always, you can email our support team, our lovely team, for help, or if you have any questions. We have the option to book a one-on-one call, so that can be video or phone, where you can go through any particular questions and get a demo of how the system works. And as I said, visit our knowledge base. We work hard on keeping that up to date. And we've got all the information there on how to use the system. Yeah,
and also I think another thing that's not technically part of features, but just from a support point of view, over the last 1 to 2 years, we've expanded the availability and of our support team, because we've got support team members based in each of the main countries that we operate. So we've got people local in Australia and UK and Europe, and in the US as well. And so if you're working late at night in the US, you can contact one of our UK or Australian support team members. Might help you if it's outside of the normal US business hours. Same for Australia, like they cover each of the regions and overlap. So meaning that there's 24-hour, 7-day-a-week almost support. We have sometimes a couple of little patches on a weekend where we have the system being monitored, of course, but there might be a little bit of more of a delay, but nearly 24/7 that we've got that support sort of coverage there. So definitely reach out, and one of our team members will be definitely happy to help. So that brings us to the end of our presentation, at least. Claire, thank you very much for joining me. I think it's been great fun. I think I'll have to drag you into some more webinars, so look out.
No, it's my pleasure. We'll have a lot more to talk about as well. There's a lot of exciting features coming, so yeah.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.